and thank you for joining us. This is No Soundbites Allowed, and I am your host, Michael Voss. Dragon of the Southern Tier, I'm happy to be here with you today. It is November 2nd. It's approximately 5:15 a.m., and about half an hour ago, news broke around the world that will have a direct impact on millions, tens of millions of people around the world. And that breaking news directly reflects on what's happening here in America. And we're going to talk a little bit about it because we have been talking. But before we get to that, I do want to say, if this is the first time that you're seeing our channel, we want to welcome you and thank you for being part of our audience. We want you to know that we do long-form political commentary. And every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we do a live stream with you. We reach out on all the social media that the internet overlords will allow to hear your voice from anywhere in the world to tell us about the issues that are affecting you. Because we believe in your First Amendment right. It's not just an American right. You have the right to speak about the issues that matter to you and how you feel about them. And every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we listen to you, we have that conversation with you, and we hope you will join us. So what happened today? What is the breaking news? Well, quite simply, I can tell you it's not the fact that a rapper died in Houston. I am sure many of the younger viewers of YouTube are very concerned about that, but that really isn't important. But these are the issues that most people are caught up with. These are the issues that the mainstream media want to occupy your time with. They want you to think about that. They want you to think about almost anything. Paul Pelosi, as we see 26 million people have voted early because they're not supposed to think about the consequences of their vote and how it is affecting the rest of the world. We want to be very clear about that. 26 million people have voted. In fact, it was about 5 days ago that we saw, as according to Politico, on October 28th, young voters aren't involved in the election. They're just not showing up. They're not part of the base that Democrats have counted on. No, because there's nothing to motivate. The fact is that once Joe Biden took over in January of 2021, global stability took a hit internationally. There is no world leader that respects Joe Biden. There is no world leader that fears Joe Biden. They have never feared him. They have never considered him to be a strong leader. And the fact is, everyone knew that Joe Biden had one thing on his mind: to maintain the power of Democrats through 2022 midterm elections and to get to 2024. And that he was looking for a victory, a win, anywhere that he could get it, whether it was domestically in the United States, talking about climate change, trying to give people checks, or whether it came from internationally, like with the Iran nuclear deal. But none of that has worked. When we're talking about Iran and the Iran nuclear deal, the only reason that the White House is currently giving up on the Iran nuclear deal after stall after stall, where Iran has gained every concession, everything they have asked for, just by saying, we don't want to talk. Literally, the United States has waved away sanction after sanction just to get Iran to talk to them. And now we see that the only reason that the United States isn't making the Iran nuclear deal move forward is because of Iran's internal issues, the rioting based on the death of a young woman at the hands of Iranian officers. Trust and believe that if that wasn't an international news item right this second, like the women of Afghanistan are no longer a news issue, we'd be dealing with Iran trying to get the Iran nuclear deal because Joe Biden is desperate for the votes. It's not because Iran is planning to sell ballistic missiles to Russia, and they have already sold Russia drones that have been used as part of the fight in Ukraine. No, that wasn't a reason enough to stop the Biden-Harris administration. The only thing that's stopping them is Iran is busy with a potential civil riot going on, a civil war potentially in its country. That's the only thing that's stopping the Biden-Harris administration. So let me pause for a second, because that isn't the breaking news. That is what's happening right now. Iran is moving forward. They do not care about the Biden-Harris administration. They do not fear Joe Biden, and that's why they are helping Russia fight Ukraine. Not because Iran wants to help Russia. It's because Iran hates the United States. It's just that simple. And we do need to be aware that Iran is going as far as giving Russia short-range ballistic missiles so that they can better attack not just Ukraine, but to threaten Europe, because Iran would like to see Europe, the United States, Israel, they'd like to see us all dead. And it doesn't matter what your politics are. And we have been talking about that on this program for a long time. But I want to get to the news that's breaking today. The news that people aren't paying attention to. They're too busy talking about Friends. They're too busy talking about a rapper who died, like many of these rappers die. No, the thing that's important is we've been talking for an entire year about North Korea, about the 17 missiles that were fired in one day. We've been talking about North Korea firing off missiles threatening South Korea, Japan, and Taiwan for a year. We have been telling you that because Joe Biden is not respected by any country in the world, that this was going to lead to a problem, that this was going to raise international tensions, that this was going to cause 3 regional wars across the world, not World War III, but 3 regional wars, and we are seeing it. We will tell you that the weakness of the Biden-Harris administration is exemplified by the fact that no one, the current South Korean President Yoon, had no trust and faith in Kamala Harris, and he shouldn't have, because she is an embarrassment on international policy. He had no trust and faith in Joe Biden, as Joe Biden was talking at the UN, and he shouldn't. No one has that trust and faith in Joe Biden, because internationally we have seen the United States has run away from Afghanistan, abandoning 5,000 American citizens in that nation, just tossing them to the side, and creating the first terrorist army in the world, legitimately a terrorist army in the hands of the Taliban, Al-Qaeda, and ISIS, because Joe Biden wanted to run away because he thought he would get a good photo op out. And we see that the United States has put in $65 billion, giving it to Ukraine. And the only thing that has resulted in is making Iran work more closely with Russia, to have China work more closely with Russia. And North Korea watching China literally spit in the face of the Biden-Harris administration, laughing and scolding the Biden administration over the last 21 months. North Korea has watched that. North Korea has watched as Iran has played the Biden-Harris administration to get concession after concession, to have sanction after sanction waved away just so they could talk to them. North Korea watched as Saudi Arabia laughed in the face of Joe Biden. They didn't take his phone call. The President of the United States, they wouldn't take his phone calls. They wouldn't talk to him. So Joe Biden had to fly to Saudi Arabia to beg the Saudis to increase the amount of oil they were going to produce. And then Saudi Arabia, in fact, cuts 2 billion barrels along with OPEC 2 billion barrels of oil reduction, not the increase that Joe Biden wanted, after he begged and flew halfway around the world, and everyone in the news media got to watch that. Russia laughed in the face of Joe Biden, even as he tried to be big and bad and goes on to national television and says that, Vladimir Putin is a killer, and then backs down every single time that he has met him since that time. In fact, we saw that Russia was emboldened by the weakness of Biden and the missteps of Kamala Harris, both on U.S. southern border, on all the policies. Everything that she has done has been a complete failure and a joke. And then Nancy Pelosi, of course, with her trips around the world, increasing tensions with China. North Korea has been watching each and every one of these events. They have been watching what's happening, the desperation of the Biden-Harris administration just to try and find more votes so that they can protect Democrats in the 2022 midterm elections. That's all this has been about. The first 21 months of the Biden-Harris administration has been about preserving Democrat power. That's it. And North Korea, month after month, they have been firing missile after missile every month this year. In fact, it's been so bad that this is an old chart. It has not been updated to today's news. Add 17 more missiles onto this chain, and you will see that they have fired approximately 61 missiles this year in 2022 alone. More than any president. In fact, double any president ever. That's how bad it has been. Hell, they have fired more missiles this year than most presidencies see in the entire presidency. That is a statement that North Korea finds Joe Biden to be weak. They have no respect for him. They have no fear of him or his leadership of America, because he has seen how China has laughed at America in terms of Taiwan. They have watched Iran play the Biden-Harris administration and therefore America to get sanctions released. They have seen Russia move forward with Ukraine, even as Joe Biden threatened them and said, oh, don't worry, you're going to get sanctions like you've never seen sanctions before. And those sanctions have resulted in Russia having a stronger ruble, their currency, than ever before. The ruble is higher today after every sanction that Joe Biden has put forward, after Joe Biden has led the world in trying to punish Russia. The ruble is stronger today than it has been at any time under the Biden presidency. North Korea saw all of it. Every rogue nation in the world has been paying attention. From the moment that Joe Biden decided he wanted to run out of Afghanistan, to run with his tail between his legs, and to leave every weapon, money, and ammunition laying on the ground with American citizens lost in that nation, not knowing where to go, and Joe Biden lied to the American people to your face. And we have been here all year telling you, missile after missile, that this is getting worse, that the Biden-Harris administration needs to have an international policy. They need a plan, and they need to show strength, or this will get worse. And it has gotten worse. And at this point, we are at the tipping point. This is quite possibly and quite realistically, this is the worst event that we have seen in North Korea since 1953. Now, that's not me saying that. That is actually being said by the president of South Korea, President Yoon. The South Korean military said it was the first time since the peninsula was divided, since the Korean War, in 1953, that North Korean missiles had landed so close to South South Korea's territory. That this was literally just 35 miles southeast of South Korea. We haven't seen these kind of problems since active warfare in 1953. Once again, it falls back to without America having a defined international policy, which we don't have, without strong leadership from Joe Biden and or Kamala Harris, or even the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, without strong leadership, we are seeing a destabilization of peace. It's happening before our eyes. And that means the 2022 midterm election is critical. If for some reason Democrats are able to take control of the Senate, they're going to lose the House. Chuck Schumer has already said so. But if Democrats are able to maintain the Senate and to maintain the power of the Biden-Harris administration so that they can continue on this progressive path, a path that has destabilized our cities, increased crime, increased inflation, created a recession, and has failed internationally to provide leadership that is necessary to keep the world calm. If that happens, we are going to see nation after nation, all the small nations, become even worse. We have been telling you since the beginning of this year, there is a global food shortage. That's a fact. It's not a question, not an if, it's happened. Whether that food shortage is going to be 30% less food in the world or 40% less food in the world, we're not quite sure. But it's here and it's happening right now. We've been telling you that the Biden-Harris administration has no respect. We're seeing that with Saudi Arabia. We've seen that with Russia. And we've told you that you have to be prepared because as the world destabilizes, we're going to see less peace. And thus we've had terrorists caught crossing the southern border as it is wide open, threatening to try and kill former United States elected officials, former presidents. These are the consequences that come from a weak leader without a plan. And again, we'll say, what's the plan? What's Joe Biden's plan for international policy? What's Kamala Harris's plan for international policy? They were never asked this in 2019, in 2020, before the election. They were never asked, what is your international policy? Because they don't have one. And now we see the result of that. Now we get to see the fruit of that failure. I know it's very early in the morning. It's 5:30 in the morning. I am tired, but it's important. And I hope this is coming across very clearly. I know we've been talking about it all year. I know that there are some people who want to talk about entertainment. They're more concerned about She-Hulk. They're more concerned about whether Wakanda Forever is woke enough. But please stop and realize your vote matters. We need to send a signal to Washington, D.C. We need to send a signal to our elected officials to create an international policy, to show strength to our enemies, and to stand up for our allies like South Korea, like Taiwan, like Japan, like Europe. We have to stand up for them now because it is getting worse and worse. Many people have said, well, we have to be afraid of World War III. We've been saying this all year. We've been saying it for more than a year. It's not going to be World War III. It's going to be 3 world wars. Let me clarify that. We've said it before on this program. I want to say it again. It's not World War III. It's 3 world wars. And what we mean by that is that means fighting with Russia and Ukraine. It means China going after Taiwan. It means the Middle East erupting into problems. It means North Korea fighting against South Korea and Japan. We mean 3 regional conflicts simultaneously happening across the world because the Biden-Harris administration can't handle trying to close the southern border, let alone trying to handle international policy like Americans abandoned in Afghanistan. They can't even get them home. We need an international policy. We need to show strength. We need to make sure the world and these rogue nations know that the United States is still the leader of the world and that we will take the appropriate actions to help make the world safe. Because if the world isn't safe, we aren't safe. North Korea is giving us the warning sign. This is it. This is your red flag moment. This is the penultimate moment, I believe. We could be wrong. We hope we are wrong. But this is the big flashing warning signs that's telling you, wake up. We need an international policy. We need leadership that is respected, if not feared, around the world. And we have to do it now. Because the next step is that Iran will send ballistic missiles to Russia, and Russia will use ballistic missiles against Europe, against Lithuania, Estonia, against Latvia, against Romania, against all of our allies and NATO. That we need to do something now because China otherwise will go into Taiwan and take it over, as they have promised us they will do that. Because North Korea is watching what is happening, and they are about to restart the Korean War, going into South Korea and threatening Japan. And Iran is sitting back. Iran hates the United States. Iran hates Israel. They hate every nation in the world that doesn't believe exactly what they believe. And they are more than happy to help anyone in the world to kill America, Americans, and Israelis, and all of our allies. And they'll be happy to give oil and weapons to anyone to make sure we're going to be hurt. That's the reality, folks. And part of that reality is we do have a choice. We can install a leadership in America that is respected and or feared. That says that America will get things done. Even if the president doesn't want to do it, he will be dragged into an international policy, kicking and screaming if necessary, but the Congress can make executive branch move forward to protect America. And that's what we need to do at this point. You need to go out and make sure you vote on November 8th. And if we do not have strong leadership, if we do not have respect, if we do not have fear around the world of a unified United States, well, North Korea firing 17 missiles in one day, that's going to be the start of the problem. But perhaps you think we're wrong. Perhaps you think this is overreacting. Perhaps you think we've been wrong all year. We'd like to hear what you think. Do you think that what we have seen in Russia, in Iran, in North Korea, in China, do you think that's all a reaction to Joe Biden being weak? Or do you think that's completely separate of what's happening in America? Do you think that any of those nations respect Joe Biden, fear Joe Biden? We'd like to hear what you have to say. Not just today in the comments, but also on Sunday during our live stream, when you get to speak with us at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We look forward to hearing what you have to say. I know you've heard it before. What difference does it? You make the difference. When you watch, chat, tweets, your likes and shares, and your subscription, you make the difference. From across the world, you help us to keep the lights on and the stream alive. You are making the difference to fight the woke and the crazy legislation that we see before. We at No Soundbites Allowed, and I want to thank you for everything that you do in helping us reach our goal, and your likes, your tweets, your comments, and your subscriptions to the channel. We want to thank you from the bottom of our heart. And this is a special thank you to those who have donated to the channel and helped us in all of our efforts. We will strive to make this channel the best that we possibly can, because you deserve no less. Thank you.